Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokémon Emerald video. I can't believe I forgot to use those guys, but apparently I did not do any videos with Latias and Latios. Thank you to the guy in the comments who reminded me about that. These two legendaries are quite famous, especially because they are quite hard to find after the end of the game, since they are roaming legendaries like the beasts from Generation 2. Overall, they are very good Pokémons, they have great typing and good stats. The move pool is also not that bad. Unfortunately, the one drawback of using legendaries is that the growth rate is slow, so it will take a lot of time to level up. And because of that, a strong starting moveset is extremely important. Latias does not have the best though. Psywave is a bad move, it's sort of a Sonic Boom but worse. And Wish is good, but it's not an offensive option. No matter, for the first few fights I should be fine, since my very high stats compared to everything else that is around should be able to carry me through these fights. The major problem of Latias is that I cannot touch dark types, and of course there are quite a few Puchienas at the start of the game. Fortunately, struggle exists, so after depleting all of my PPs, I can defeat those dark Pokémons with struggle. Once we reach the forest, we meet this Devon SPA guy. He is currently being hunted by a Team Aqua Grunt, and of course he uses a Pochiena too. I have to use Struggle for this fight too, and even though it's a bit harder, I am still able to defeat it with no problems. Roxanne is the first gym leader of this region, and thankfully she does not use any dark types. Her Pokémons are rock instead, and unfortunately, even though I have a Wish, I ended up losing once to her. Also, I had to equip a Leppa Berry because since Psywave is extremely unreliable, it's likely that I will run out of PPs throughout this fight. Because not only the damage is random, but it only has 80 accuracy, which is very bad for most moves. Roxanne proved to be quite capable. Her Pokémons were doing a lot of damage to me, even though I have 95 base defense, decent IVs, and even a boosting nature. This time around, though, I was more careful and used Wish whenever I reached around half HP. That should give me enough time to endure a couple of turns and then get healed. Also, in this particular encounter, Psywave did not miss all that much, and thanks to that, I was able to defeat Roxanne without too many issues. After this fight, we have to do some more stuff around town, and eventually we have to take down another Team Aqua Grunt. Of course, he also uses a Puchiena, so since I did not learn any other move, I still have to use the struggle strategy. At least I can be happy knowing that this is the last time I will have to use it for this video. Once we have rescued the Pico, we can do a couple more things like talking to the Sylph CEO, and then, just before leaving town, we can take on the optional fight against our rival May. Her team is not too bad, mostly because Wingull is sort of a decent Pokémon for this point in the game. But considering my very high bulkiness, there is not a whole lot they can do to me, even if I don't use a Wish. Trico learned Absorb, but it's not a great move for him since I resist it. Instead, he tried to lower my defense to then tackle me, A solid strategy, but it did not work out for her. After grinding a couple more levels, I can learn Dragon Breath, so finally I have a decent move, and with that I felt confident enough taking on Brawly. The second gym leader specializes in fighting types, and maybe a bit too much so, considering that all of his damaging moves are fighting type. Since I am part psychic, I resist those, and so this fight should be very easy for us, and indeed it was. Right after getting the second badge, we can make our way to the next town of Slateport, where after a little bit of exploration, we have to take down a couple more Team Aqua Grants who are trying to rob this guy. Even though they have a couple of Carvanas who are dark type, I do not have to worry about that anymore, since with the Dragon Breath I can make quick work of them and also of the Zubat. I have never been happier to see Dragon Breath, even though it sort of breaks my layout since I cannot handle that move very well, because it changed how it's spelled throughout the games. After defeating them, I grinded a bit more, and then as I was going to defeat May, I met a shiny Wingull, and of course I had to catch it. It's been a while since I found one of those. Anyway, moving on, we now have to take down May once again. Her team did improve quite a bit, but considering that now I am not limited to only bad moves, I am much more capable of defeating her Pokémons with no issues. After defeating her too, we can make our way to Mobile, where we have quite a bit of grinding to do before taking on the gym leader there. Wattson is quite a strong trainer most of the time, and today it's not really the exception. His Magneton resists Dragon Breath, so it's not going to be crazy powerful, but considering that I have Safeguard, I can block his Thunder Waves and not get paralyzed. That helped out a lot, much more than what I would have imagined, because even without paralysis, Magneton is a tough cookie to crumble. With the potions, he can heal the Pokémon multiple times, and that gives him a lot of turns to use Sonic Booms and stuff against me. Unfortunately for Wattson, once that guy is defeated, Manectric is not able to do all that much to me. And with the third badge of the region in our pocket, we can now use Rock Smash to explore pretty much the rest of the mainland. Eventually we stumble upon the two teams in Meterfall Caves having a bit of a heated discussion, and here we are informed about Max's plan. To attempt to stop him, we climb the volcano and we find him about to trigger this device. To stop him, we challenge him to a duel, and of course, since this time I am not using a physical attacker, the Intimidate from Mightyena is not really a problem. What sort of is that Mightyena lived a Dragon Breath and used Sand Attack. Turns out that it did not impact me too much in the end, since I did not really miss any times, and with that we have stopped Maxi successfully for once. After all of that, we have to go down, and in the next town we can fight the next gym. Flannery specializes in fire types, which is very good for us, since Dragon resists that typing too. So today, for once, I do not have to worry about getting one-shotted by overheat. Or at least that should not be the case. Also, Dragon is special in this game, so Dragon Breath ends up doing a lot of damage to her Pokémons, since they are mostly physically bulky. Now that we have collected all of the first 4 badges, we can take on our dead after having to backtrack quite a bit. Initially, I was not super worried about Norman, but his slacking surprised me and defeated me once. Again, those things should really not happen since I have a wish and I can heal whenever I want. In the second attempt, I tried to be more careful and use wish whenever I was sort of low. This time, he also tried to use yawn on me. And to be honest, I do not know if with the safeguard I would have blocked that too or not. It might be able to get through since it is not a direct application of a status effect. Anyway, after a bit of struggling, I was finally able to defeat the Yeti, and with a couple more Dragon Breaths, I can take down the Lainoon too, and finally defeat Norman. By winning this fight, we also get the Surf HM, and even though it may not be the best option for Latias, I ended up teaching it anyway. By using it out of combat, we can explore the rest of the region, and eventually we stumble upon the Team Aqua Grants being annoying in the Weather Institute. We defeated their admiral in a blink, and after solving that situation, we have to defeat May once again. This one is not optional, but fortunately her team is not quite able to stand up to me. Dragon Breath, considering the stab, is very strong and is able to one-shot all of her team with no problems. Anyway, the next major encounter is the gym fight against Winona. For this one I switched my moveset around a little bit to learn a couple of moves that are extremely strong against her team. Between Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, I am sure I can defeat all of her Pokémons in one hit, assuming that I used the right move for each Pokémon. Pelipper tries to stall me with the Protect, but there is little he can do to stop me. And so, after a couple more attacks, I am able to get the Flying Badge. And fortunately, I just got the Fly HM after defeating May. Otherwise, if it was missable, I am sure I would have skipped it 1,000 times already. Next is the last fight against our rival. This time she is guarding access to the mall where you can find a substitute, but since I am using a special attacker, I decided I would not use it today. I don't think I will need it, and it would be sort of dead weight in the move pool, since there are a lot of moves that I want to teach and not enough slots. After getting the Magma emblem, we have now to infiltrate the Team Magma's base, where we find Maxi about to wake up Groudon. Unfortunately, he just does so as we arrive, but with the wrong orb, so the legendary runs away. For whatever reason, he decides to attack us, and that was not exactly a great choice on his part. Once more, since I do not have a physical attacker, I can just spam special attacks over and over. But of course, I made a small mistake. I wasted all of the Surf PPs, so that Camerupt now is a bit more annoying to deal with, but in the end I came out on top anyway. Once we have cleared the Team Magma base, it's time to do the same to the Team Aqua one, but here we can only find one of their admirals, who is buying time for their leader. He is defeated very easily, but Archie takes the opportunity to flee in the stolen submarine. Our next major battle is going to be against Tate and Liza, since they are using two Pokémons. I took the occasion to bring out my shiny Wingull just to show it off. But of course, it is not really able to do anything, as it is defeated immediately by the Claydol. Tate and Liza are very hard to deal with most of the time, because they have two Pokémons while I can only use one. In this particular fight, their Claydol also used Light Screen, which is going to be a big deal since all of my attacks are special. At least their main attacks are Psychic, which I resist, so I should be able to take quite a few of those, unless they lower my special defense over and over again. Also, my best move against them is Surf, which is made very weak by the sun that Solrock used. The fight did not look too good for me at one point, but with a great high roll against Solrock I can defeat that Pokémon, and with only one adversary, Surf can defeat him too in a few more turns. Now that we have defeated these gym leaders, we can technically use Dive out of combat, but we do not have the TM. So to get it, we have to go help Steven in his fight against the leadership of Team Magma. For this fight, I could have taught Calm Mind to Latias to increase my damage, but instead I resorted to the usual Surf spam, since it hits both of the enemy Pokémons, and even though it does not deal a crazy amount of damage, it is still enough to take them down in a few turns, especially the Camerats, who are extremely weak to it. As usual, this fight is not super interesting, it just devolves into a spam of moves from either side until they are defeated. It is somewhat rare to lose here because I can have the help of Steven, but if my Pokémon is KO'd, the fight is over, so that is not completely out of the question. And since between the two of them they have 6 Pokémons, it also takes quite a while usually. To be fair to them though, this time my HP does get kinda low, which is admirable, but unfortunately they are not quite able to finish me off. Anyway, once we are defeated and we can now finally use the HM, we reach the seafloor cave, where we meet Archie, who is about to wake up the other legendary. To try to stop him, we challenge him this time, and honestly there is not a whole lot to say about this fight. I misclicked at the start and used Psychic against Metiena, which is obviously not a good idea. But fortunately this time I did not hit myself in confusion, and I was able to finish off his team without any issues. Now that he is defeated too, the story should be over, but instead the red orb activates on its own and wakes up Kyogre. And with the both of them active, the weather in the region is an absolute clusterfuck. To try to solve this issue, we go ask Rayquaza for help, and since he seems to be above the two other legendaries, he is able to make them stop fighting in no time at all. Once we have resolved that situation too, we can move on to the last gym in the game. Juan uses water types, which is quite good for us, since I have Thunderbolt. I did almost get trolled by Kingdra, but thankfully after a couple of hits I got a special defense drop from Psychic, and that made it so that the next hit would be a one-shot. Honestly, those things should not have happened, since I should have used Calm Mind at the start, and that would have fixed a lot of problems. I don't know why, but in this run I played very poorly. Whiscash also survives since it has good defenses, and there it was the time where I decided to use Calm Mind at the last possible opportunity when it really did not matter. Whatever, no point crying over spilled milk. Now that we have all of the badges, we can enter the Victory Road where we immediately find Wally and he wants a proper challenge. His team is not too bad, it has a lot of different Pokémons with multiple typings and decent coverage. But that is not enough to stop this legendary from blasting her way through this team. There is little his Pokémons can do, most of them get one-shotted and the few that don't are resisted, so this fight was over before it even began, to be honest. The only thing that is able to seriously stall me is Gardevoir, but unfortunately for him, I have Calm Mind, so by using that a couple of times, my next attack is much more powerful and is able to finish that special wall. After clearing the rest of the Victory Road, we can enter the league, and here of course our first rival is going to be Sidney and his annoying dark types. Since I do not have a substitute, it is risky to set up in his face because as you can see I can get sand attacked. Usually that is not too bad, but of course if you get unlucky you're going to miss a lot of times at the worst of times. Fortunately it did not impact this fight too much. I probably should have used another Calm Mind just to be sure to defeat the rest of the Pokémons, but it also did not matter. Once we have defeated this guy, we have to move on to the second member of the Elite Four. Phoebe is a bit more dangerous because I only have one turn to set up with Calm Mind before she can potentially use Curse. Fortunately that is just enough with a maybe needed crit, and from there the rest of the team is much more simpler to deal with. Again, here I could have used another Calm Mind, and this time it was sort of needed since Dusclops is able to survive a hit. Ultimately it did not make that much of a difference since I can still defeat the rest of his Pokémons easily and move on to the third Elite Four. Glacia is also somewhat dangerous because this time for once we are weak to her stab typing. Unfortunately for her this does not really matter. By using one Calm Mind at the start when she uses Hail, I can now have enough special attack to likely defeat the rest of his Pokémons in very easy fashion. By switching between Thunderbolt for the Celio line and Psychic for the Glalis, I can one-hit KO all of her Pokémons, and I will soon be done with this fight too. Lastly, we have to face Drake and his Dragon Pokémons, another typing that we are weak to. I also did not bother to go get Dragon Claw since I don't think it will be needed. I have Ice Beam, which is also very strong against his team, so that should be more than enough. The only thing that is a bit dangerous is Kingdra, since that guy is only neutral to ice, but with a couple of Psychics I am sure I can deal with him. As expected, the majority of Drake's team is one-shotted by Ice Beam. For Kingdra, I set it up once at the start, but that was not enough to one-shot, and so I used another Calm Mind as he was healing, and at +2, a Psychic was enough to remove the Seahorse Dragon. Finally, after just over 3 hours, I can start the fight against the champion. As usual, I ended up underestimating his team, I got toxic and ended up losing. In the second attempt, I was a bit more careful and used a couple more calm minds at the start of the fight against Wailord. It is risky since it has Blizzard, and a crit would likely spell my doom, but since that did not happen, I can safely set up multiple times. Well, sort of safely. In the end, I ended up losing half of my HP, but that really does not matter, because now I have the potential to one-shot the rest of his Pokémons, assuming that I do not misclick again. Since I was paying a bit more attention, I am able to not click the wrong move, and by switching to Psychic for Ludicolo and later Whiscash, I am able to finally finish off Wattson's team and be crowned champion of the Hoenn region. As expected, Latias was quite easy to use, but between a bit of bad luck and me not paying enough attention, I ended up losing a couple more times than what I would have liked. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell and all of that YouTube stuff. If you have any comments, video ideas, feedback, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Bye!